All right, everybody. It's been a couple weeks since Wayne and I have been on the same podcast, so here we are, reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh my God, we are back again.
Or that too. So we're going to review two movies this week. We were planning on doing Hellraiser last week. We were unfortunately off as I had some car trouble and stuff that had to be taken care of. So we're going to combine this and do another 2 review week, which we haven't done in a while. But we are going to talk about killers and not serial killers, which is very popular right now with the Dahmer stuff and some of the other stuff that's going on at the moment.
Boy, Dahmer's hard to get through, though. Man, it's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's rough. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that it's very disturbing and very gory and very...
unsettling, like just the shot of the apartment and... Oh, anyway, but that's not what we're talking about this week.
That's what we're talking about. So, horror films since the 70s have been known for killers. 60s, if you want to go back to Psycho, obviously, with Norman Bates, maybe the ultimate killer. But I wanted to more stick with like 70s, 80s, because that's kind of where Halloween definitely fits into. And, we had Leatherface. We talked about him. Very... very disgusting, wearing people's faces, chainsaw. Everyone loves the chainsaw. I mean, I think that's been an iconic weapon in horror history, if you will. Wayne, would you agree?
Oh yeah, just the ambiance of it with just the trying to get it started. The whole the tight angles of the and then it's like, oh, what's coming and it's gonna be deliciously gory.
Well, and that's what's cool about, that weapon too, is because all of a sudden everything will be quiet for a minute and then you just hear that rev up in the background and you're like, oh shit, it's about to go down. And it really led to some great gore-tastic films, if you will. We have one of my favorites, Chucky. I know he gets slighted, I think, a lot, just because it's a killer doll. And people, it's a fucking doll. I can kill a doll. But
fuck around with some dolls around some people and see what their reaction is. No.
Yeah, and we know somebody too. So yeah, I mean, to me, the first Child's Play is always going to be a classic. It's the right amount of scary, the right amount of fun and gory. And then he gets like Freddy in the later movies where he's very sarcastic and very much an asshole. But it still adds, I think, to the mystique of Chucky, or Charles Lee Ray, who is the serial killer inside of Chucky. So much so that they've, I want to give credit to Child's Play from being from Child's Play 1, 2, 3, Bride, Seed, Curse, Cult, now the TV show. They're all connected. There's no, unlike Halloween and Nightmare and Friday, there's breaks in between the franchise because people wouldn't come back. They had to restart and do certain things. Chucky has kept it going. Don Mancini, who's the original writer, not director of the first Child's Play, the creator of that series and that character, has kept it going since 1988. So that alone, I think, is impressive. And the fact that you have what is considered to be a hit show on Sci-Fi, which I'm behind on, so I apologize to all my horror fans. But it's just the staying power, I think, of Chucky has been impressive because of how many people I know that are like, oh, those are cheesy and goofy. And I think he has just been able to kind of, especially he's gone as society has gone, as we've gotten more witty and more sarcastic. Chucky even fits even more into that. So it's been, I think, a nice transition for that. What do you think about that, Wayne?
Absolutely. I love the evolution of it. I think it was Bride where they have that ridiculous doll sex scene.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's a horror, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah.
They definitely took it to some places in that one. Also, the great
plastic bumps.
Yep, the great late John Ritter too in that one, and he was fantastic. And Bride of Chucky is the asshole uncle, especially because we're used to seeing him as such a nice guy all the time. But yeah, Chucky has always just been one of my kind of go-tos. Of course, you have Frederick Krueger, if you will, if you want to get personal with him.
Put some respect on his name.
The child murderer who kills people through their dreams.
Just misunderstood.
Exactly, very misunderstood. It's been around since '84, and that To me, that franchise has been really hit or miss with all the movies. The first one, I think, is a stone cold classic. It's a
Hmm.
fantastic film, great death scenes, lots of blood. England is fantastic.
All the way up to the greatest comedy horror of all time, Freddy versus Jason.
Right, exactly.
I know we've talked about that one before, and it is very much one of my guilty pleasures because it is funny, and
Yep.
I will say it is horror comedy almost too.
Oh, for sure. It's totally a
Why
horror comedy. It's actually from the director of Bride of Chucky, so keeping in that same realm, getting to do another franchise there. Um, Yeah, and that's the thing with Freddy is like he started out a bit more serious, kind of like Chucky in the first one, and then he gets kind of funnier as the movies go on and ridiculous. And the I just rewatched the third one, and it's the girl that wants to be like a TV star or a movie star, and welcome to prime time, bitch, as he shoves her into the television. Uh, some great one-liners, great kills. Um, just yeah, I think percentage wise, like the Nightmare movies, because there's less of them than most of the other franchises, it holds a pretty good ratio percentage wise. I just like more of the Halloween movies, more of the Child's Play movies. I probably put it higher than Friday the 13th, which will be our next guy, Jason. Very similar to Michael Myers, so we'll refrain from talking about till later because we'll
Yeah,
we'll
let's
get
just
into it.
not even talk to him. Maybe
Yeah,
keep it distant, at least arm's length. Chop chop.
yes, exactly. Um, Now Jason is the true definition of like the emotionless killer. Like he never noticed really any sort of emotion out of him. He kills. He sees people and he murders because of the revenge that he feels for him being killed and his mother being killed in the first movie. Again, if everybody knows, Jason's mother is the killer in the first movie, not Jason. We don't get Jason until part 2 with the burlap sack over his head, and then he gets the hockey mask in 3, which is obviously what he's more known for nowadays. I like Jason. The Jason movies are fun. There's just not one of them that makes me go like it doesn't. There isn't one of them that takes it to another level. I don't think. And they're even Jason Lives, which is my favorite, is really my favorite because it's just a really fun Jason film. Basically he gets zapped back to life by lightning, becomes a zombie, and just starts murdering people. And I think that's kind of how peak Jason where
Yeah,
they try to do like these stories with like Corey Feldman and being the one who kills him, and then they keep bringing Tommy Jarvis back, but different actors. And at one point in one of the movies, Tommy Jarvis is the killer until he's not. Then in the next movie, so it's all kind of crazy. But I do like Jason. I like the imagery. I like the hockey mask. Wayne, what are your thoughts on Jason?
I always think that he's just a poor man's Michael Myers, and I don't know, was my thing. When you compare like the original Halloween and the original Friday the 13th, it's like it gets points up because how the fuck are you gonna kill Kevin Bacon?
That's
Immortal.
true. That's true. You don't do that because he is Kevin Bacon and he makes everything better. And I think we've discussed this. It's the rule of Kevin Bacon, not just the 6 degrees. Obviously, everybody knows that.
Yeah,
And
but
he's
no.
like,
In all seriousness, though, like they're fun. But
mhm.
again, if I have to toss it, I'm gonna go Halloween every time, 10 out of 10.
Well, and I think too when I look at Jason, there isn't a character that I'm like, ooh, I hope they live. Where Halloween has Laurie Strode
Yeah,
or Laurie Myers, depending on which universe you're in. Um, Nightmare on Elm Street has Nancy in the first and the third one, and coming back for New Nightmare. And I get Chainsaw really doesn't have anybody either. They're just more gritty and more brutal, I think. Uh, their villains have more character, I think, is what it is too. It's like when you get further in the Chainsaw series, they bring in the Sawyer family and they're all fucking just chewing up scenery and shit like that.
yeah,
Um,
that's the unsettling part there. That's like the little extra creep factor, if you will.
yeah,
So
you already got a guy wearing human skin, and then you throw in like just some of the other characters. If you go to the remake, Arlie Ermy,
yeah,
man, is that creepy sheriff and the
let's play
fucking
dress up sheriff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. She's still warm. Like, oh god, I know what he's gonna do.
He was so good in that though. Um, so yeah, I think Friday definitely lacks that. I think the reason I like the remake more than most people is because I think they tried to add characters into it that you liked. Um, by bringing in Jared Padalecki from the team Supernatural and stuff like that, and bringing in other actors that you recognize. I think they were trying to go that route. But yeah, for me, Jason, it's fun. I like you said, they're fun movies. I'm like, oh, cool. I get to watch Jason beat somebody against a tree in a sleeping bag, or hatchet somebody's face off, or stuff like that, and that's fun for us, or for me anyway.
Whichever one that uses the bow and arrow, is that the remake?
I think so. I think that's the opening of the remake. The remake where the opening credits is the first movie, and then the stinger on the front of it is the second movie, and then the whole movie is basically a remake of the third movie. So, because they wanted to get him in the hockey mask, so they really had to like put three into one in that movie. Yeah. So, I mean, those are your main, I think, killers everybody knows. Another one I wanted to bring up too that more prestige, if you will, surrounding him, and that is Academy Award winner Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, coming back to do it coming back two more times after the first movie in Silence of the Lambs, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fantastic performance, very just cold and calculated, and the scene where he escapes and he's wearing the guy's face, and you're just like, what the fuck is going. It's still my wife loves that movie, so we watch it throughout the year, and it's still chilling just watching him do that to those guards and stuff, and just the idea too that he was
He
in.
attacks because he's so subdued and methodical, and all of a sudden, ha! Like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's he gets you just when they're feeding. I mean, that scene where he breaks out, they're feeding him his dinner and stuff, and then all of a sudden he's just on the attack, and they're dead, and he has enough time. I love the idea that he has enough time, kind of like a Marvel movie where they leave like their logo behind or something like that. Like he has enough time to tie the guy up on the ceiling, throw the other guy's body in the elevator shaft, make himself look dead. Like, how long were these guys off the radio that you didn't think to check on them? But that he comes back in Hannibal, where he basically is like Freddy Krueger, and he's like murdering just tons of people, lots of gore, lots of blood in that one, which is why I like that one. And then he does the prequel Red Dragon, where they added more of, because that's kind of a remake of Manhunter from the 80s. They added more scenes for Hopkins to be in so that they could justify paying him as much as they had to get him to come back.
Oh, the end of Hannibal when he's on the plane and he feeds the little kid the brain.
Yep.
Is that Ray Liotta, right?
Yeah, Ray Liotta's brain. Yep. Oh yeah, that's such a good performance from Liotta too. When he comes, that reveal too, when they you turn, the camera turns and you see that his head is half open and he's cooking the brain. Very, very interesting in how they did that. Yeah. So I got a couple more, Wayne, that I know you're probably not going to be too familiar with, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but just ones I want people to watch. A movie I've mentioned many a times, The Guest with Dan Stevens. To me, it's like a charismatic Michael Myers, because he tries to be like in these people's lives and stand up for them, and then they realize that he's a murdering psychopath, so then he just murders everybody. Really love that movie. Fantastic. Right now in theaters is Terrifier 2, which is about Art the Clown, who is a new slasher from I think 2014 was the first not short film, anthology film that he was in, and then he got his own movie in 2016, which is what I'm recommending today. Now, only watch Terrifier if you're like me and you love your gore. It's gross. It's disgusting. There's no happiness in this movie at all. It's just one big, just mean fest right here. Hatchet, a horror comedy that was made by Adam Green in kind of the vein of, he's a big Halloween fan, so he wanted to make that kind of a slasher movie but make it funny. So he did that. He did 4 of those. They're all pretty good. I like those. Reanimator, Herbert West, played by Jeffrey Combs, who's been on Star Trek and stuff. He plays a doctor who's bringing people back to life. Very cool movie. It's mentioned in American Beauty. That's kind of how it got into my attention, was because of that movie. A monster movie I really like, where the villain is brought back a few times, is Pumpkinhead. He's a great killer. I love that series. The first movie especially is fantastic. The sequels are kind of shitty, but the first one's pretty good. Behind the Mask is the last one I'll mention. That is The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I bring that up because that's a good one to watch, the first Halloween movie, and then watch Behind the Mask, which is a mockumentary, Wayne, about a Michael Myers type killer called Leslie Vernon, and he's being followed around by a documentary crew who knows that this is what he does. And there's great scenes. There's a scene where he's running on the treadmill, and he's like, got to keep your cardio up for those scenes that it looks like you're not running. As we all know, like the bad guys in those movies, Michael Myers or Jason, always catch up to him no matter what, without breaking a sweat. So there's really good stuff like that. And then the last like 20 minutes is just a straight up slasher flick, which I thought was really, really cool. They talk about the virgin thing, that if you have, if you have sex, you're going to die. And they do a nice, uh, a twist where you think you're following one virgin and all of a sudden then she has sex. And then you're like, well, then who's the final girl? And then you find out later that it was like this one person the whole time. So yeah, really, that one's really good. I really recommend it. It's very smart, very witty, very funny, also very gory. I think I'm going to actually watch that one soon because I'm doing the 31 days of Halloween. All right.
Yeah.
So that is Killers. We're going to be a little short on that. We're going to go right into our reviews
Of the week.
We have such sights to show you. All right, so up first, and we didn't mention him ahead because we knew we were going to review this. I know these aren't really your movies, Wayne. So these are something like Hellraiser is something I got into probably about 6 years ago or so. I'd seen some of the sequels on TV, and I probably maybe have seen bits and pieces of the first two, but I never really sat down and watched them. So I sat down like 6 years ago, watched the first one, and I was just like, holy fuck, like this movie is awesome. This is really good. I love it. It's dirty, it's cringy, it's gory. It's about like sex and violence and stuff. It's very devilish in its way. And the same with the second one. I really love the second one too. So when they announced that they were remaking Hellraiser and kind of like a new idea, it's not a full remake. It's more of a reimagining, if you will. They take the story. The same ideas are there. David Bruckner, who directed The Ritual and The Night House, which are two really good movies I do recommend. This one I think they went the Evil Dead remake route, Wayne, in my opinion, where they focus on drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So where like in the first one, the sex is kind of the addiction. People are drawn to these Cenobites, if you will, because of their sexual depravity. Where this girl is addicted to drugs, and she ends up finding the cube, which we're introduced to in the opening scene with Gordon Vishnu from ER. And we kind of get a little intro to the puzzle box, and the configurations. It's a little different than the original film. They like did it in levels where you have to sacrifice a certain number of people to the box in order to keep on living. You got to feed the box essentially, and
feed the box.
Definitely a different movie. So right away, I'll start off with my cons. I did like this movie overall. I did like this movie. I know Wayne is not on the same page with me, which is fine. My cons are it's too long at 2 hours. The first one's like 86 minutes.
Yeah.
So a little too long. I would have liked, I know this made me make me sound like a pervert, but like the sexual stuff is a big part of the original franchise. They do have some of that in here. It's just not like enough. And then the gore. There are some pretty gory scenes, but if you can imagine, if you've seen this one, the original is much gorier.
That was my thing too. Like even the initial with Brandon Flynn from 13 Reasons Why. If you put names to faces, so you guys knew who I'm talking about.
Yep.
They cut away. It's like, what? Wait, whoa, hey, yo, what are you doing here? This ain't supposed to be suspense. It's supposed to be horror.
Yes. They make you wait till the end to see a lot of the horror because they show you more stuff towards the end, like the girl's back getting ripped open and you see her spine and stuff. So I think the idea was like kind of like a Jaws type thing. Like we're gonna show you little bits here and there, but we're gonna make you wait for the payoff. Right. So
the other interesting thing, sorry not to cut you off,
go ahead.
They kind of transitioned away from the leather and bondage.
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
More toward, I don't know, like maybe because it's not so demonized or taboo anymore.
It's not so 1980s anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's something I noticed. There's more like just body deformation.
It was more body horror, yes. And I think that was on purpose. I don't know. I've never read the book, so I don't know if that's how the book is. Clive Barker, who was the creator of Hellraiser and directed the first movie, he was producing this film, so he was kind of on board with a lot of the changes they made. That we do have to talk about the big thing that, of course, all the right wing nut job Republicans talk about is that they replaced Pinhead with a woman, a trans woman at that. She does a great job. I thought she was fantastic as Pinhead. I the amount of I'm glad I think they actually used her more than they used Doug Bradley in the first movie, because that was the one thing people talk about the first Hellraiser is you don't really get to see Doug Bradley a whole lot as Pinhead until towards the end. Um, so I thought that was the use of her was fantastic. I liked a lot of the new Cenobites. They had a new Chatterer, which that's the one way that the mouth keeps on moving. Um,
Okay. Yep.
yeah, so that was they did a different version of that in the original series, much heavier looking Chatterer. I actually have the Funko. My wife one day, she didn't know I bought it. She looked at the Funko thing. She's like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, he's next to Pinhead. It's Hellraiser. Come on now. Yeah. So the initial plot of this is you have the main female character who is a drug addict, and she is living with her brother, the guy from 13 Reasons Why, like you said, Wayne, and they
Oh,
are
yes, you can't catch a break.
yeah, which I knew I recognized him, but it wasn't until I looked up at the end. I was like, oh, that's who that was. I'm like, that's why I know him, because I didn't watch all those episodes. I think I watched the first 2 seasons. So I'm
That's where
like,
you
I
think
watched him
that.
for 26 years, or 26 years, 26 episodes. All right, so just a little information from behind. I know we already talked about the movie a little bit. Directed by David Bruckner, written by Ben Collins and Luke uh, Piotrowski, story by David S. Goyer, who's been around for a long time writing movies and stuff, based on The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. Okay, so we were Roland Voigt is one of the new main characters that he's played by Goran Vishnish. Maybe that's how you say it. I'm not sure. Odessa Azion plays Riley. She's our new heroine. Jamie Clayton as the Hell Priest, aka Pinhead, leader of the Cenobites. Um, Adam Faison is Colin, Matt's boyfriend. Drew Starkey is Trevor, Riley's boyfriend, who met her in 12-step program, which they talk about that. She's dating an addict as well. Brandon Flynn, who's from 13 Reasons Why, plays Matt. That's her brother. He gets taken by the box in the beginning of the movie, and Riley starts to kind of figure out what the box is, and that people that she is kind of selecting, not on purpose, get taken, and we get to see the chains come out and pull them in, and really kind of cool imagery and stuff like that. They then end up going to the original mansion owned by the bad guy who's disappeared, who you then find out is still actually alive, living in the walls. Which I didn't know he was going to be living in the walls, Wayne, but I kind of figured. So spoiler, sorry, probably should have said that ahead of time, but oh well. I'll put that in the tag. Spoilers. It you know that was interesting that they did keep him alive. They found I kind of figured that out though, that like I'm like, you don't, like, he's your only named actor in this film. Like, he's not going to just disappear for after the first 5 minutes, I don't think. And I
Right.
was right. Yeah, you get some really cool imagery there. Like I said, overall, I like this movie. It's not as good as the original. It's probably not even as good as the second one, but I think the story is very relatable. Everyone's got issues, so the fact that they went with the drug problem and stuff, I think a lot of people could probably relate to that. Like I said, I do believe it is a little long. They could have cut some of the beginning stuff out. I think that was a lot of people's concern, is that it dragged a little bit in the beginning. Similarly to the next thing that we're going to talk about, actually. But it just has this feel to it. Felt like Hellraiser to me, and I think that's why I liked it. As a Hellraiser fan, I was like, okay, this is something that I am enjoying. Wayne, what are your thoughts on it? I know you're not a Hellraiser fan by any means, and I know you weren't a huge fan of this one. So
As gross as it is, the costumes and the makeup and everything are really, really well done. Like, it
true.
looks
Yep, the
really
effects
like
guys get a lot of credit because it looks
absolutely.
fantastic.
And like, I agreed with you that it was too long, and yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I it grossed me out, it freaked me out a little bit. So it did everything I was supposed to do, but I think that the originals are still a tier or two above the
Mm-hmm.
remake.
Agreed. And I think and it grossed you out. For me, I enjoyed that. I had the
It
excitement.
also ruined puzzle boxes for me. Oh, you want me to open it? Hammer. Yep, there you go. Done.
I got a grenade. We'll blow it up. See what's inside. Yeah. So I mean, overall, rating wise, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, it was good. Wayne, what is your rating on it?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Okay, all right, good rating. Just it's not for you. So I think that's when we do these podcasts, we like to talk about movies that we maybe aren't for us, but we could see that there's still quality there. All right, so now on to the masterpiece of this hour, or not. And I think
Andy Roar, I'm going to need you on this one, buddy.
Wayne and I's opinion on this is great because the last two Halloween movies I think have been 50-50. People have either loved them or they hated them, and this one fits right into that. So it's good that honestly we're on kind of both sides here. So I'll admit, so Halloween ends. So let's just
throw out the spoiler here in case somebody wants to watch it, because in the name, I think guys can figure out what's going to happen.
Yes.
So this is your spoiler warning because we're going to talk about it.
Yes, this is a spoiler heavy review, and I will put that in it when we release it next Friday. I will put that in so if you haven't seen it, probably don't listen to it yet. But watch it so that you can, listen to us talk about it. So let's see how we got here. So this is if you don't count the Rob Zombie movies, this is the third storyline of the Halloween franchise. You have Halloween 2, 4, 5, 6, then Halloween 2, 7, 8, and now Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. So 4 movies in this storyline.
What about Resurrection and H2O?
I love H2O. That was 7 and 8. So, but I should have said their names, I guess. Resurrection is a giant piece of shit. And let me just start out by
Busta Rhymes.
Yes, that's the Busta Rhymes one.
That's the one with the house, right? And it's all like,
it's the reality TV era Michael Myers film. So they're at the Myers house and they're doing a reality. So first off, let me say, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, obviously. I've seen a lot of people ranking this movie or Halloween Kills below Resurrection, Curse of Michael Myers, which is part 6, and Halloween 5. Those 3 movies to me are, in my opinion, the worst of the franchise. So I would definitely not put any of the new ones below that. But to each their own. Again, we don't want to get into because I say it, this is correct. Everyone obviously has their own opinion, and that's what we always like to talk about here is, these are our opinions. These are what we think about these films. All right, so you get Halloween 1, obviously 1978. I'll say is just a straight up slasher. This guy's killing people, and it ends with him disappearing. Halloween,
it's the pinnacle. It is the ground foundation of the franchise. 9.9 out of 10 if you don't believe in perfection. Just fantastic.
It's amazing. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It started the slasher craze, so maybe some people hate it for that because we got a lot of shitty movies in the slasher craze in the 80s, but it's still, in my opinion, it's still my favorite horror franchise overall. There's
really
enough
set the groundwork for how much the soundtrack and sound effects play into a film and making it good when you have a voiceless,
very true
antagonist.
So what I do want to talk about and focus on with these movies is trauma. So at the end of the first movie, 1978, you see that Laurie is distraught. She's obviously going to have some real life trauma from this. So then we get to the new sequel, which is 40 years later. And what is that one about? It's about the trauma that she has suffered at from the pain this guy has caused her. She has not been able to live a normal life. She's trained her daughter to be a killer. She wants to train her granddaughter to be a killer. So this is one of those things that, I don't know that people really thought that this is where this franchise was going, but I do know a lot of people really liked Halloween 2018. They liked how it was a good sequel. I think they just expected this franchise to be more slashery, which I think Halloween Kills definitely is, but there is something different about Halloween Kills that people just didn't like the direction it went. So we get the trauma in that one. It's Laurie and her daughter dealing with this and all this stuff. And then you get to Halloween Kills, where it's same night as Halloween 2018, and it's the trauma that the town has had to deal with over all these years of Michael Myers, the threat of Michael Myers being there, and now he's back. So we have that trauma. We have having to understand that he is more than just a man. He's evil incarnate. He's a monster, and that's what Halloween Kills to me is about. Two things I liked in Halloween Kills that they addressed. One was that he was not killing. He was not chasing Laurie. He was just killing to kill. And that's what he does in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. He's not looking for Laurie. He really doesn't give a fuck about Laurie. He just wants to kill. And she just happens to kind of bring herself in his path almost. Even the doctor does, the new doctor. And then the other thing I like in Halloween Kills that they did was they kind of touch on the idea that what if Michael, when he's looking out that window, is not looking out, but he's actually looking inward. It's the only way that he can look into himself. And I think that was a very interesting take. I like that they did that. It does actually feed into Halloween Ends, I think. So now we get to the finale. Also, I want to point out too, I think
I gotta jump in real quick here
sure,
at that. And I know we've talked about this in last year's Halloween.
Yes.
Let's just touch on it real quick. Do you agree that making them related is kind of cheapening or kind of messing with the...
Yes, okay. I think so. We did touch on this. That's something that John Carpenter did not want to do. Right. The studio had asked him to do something that made the stakes different. And he was like, fine. And that's why I just listened to a podcast where they like Halloween 2, as do I. I think Halloween 2 is a good movie. The one thing a lot of people like me do not like about Halloween 2 is that reveal that they're related. And even the way they handled it in Halloween 2 is like, oh God, did you see the paperwork? They're related. And it's like, really? Like, it's like they try to get you like this big reaction and you're just kind of like, okay. You could go with it. It's fine. But it's just it was just a really weird way.
Like again, when we get into like why I have, some questions about ends, in a different storyline, that totally could have worked as an awesome reveal. But at the same time, it's like, not for this guy, not for this killer who just, we don't know why. Now you've given him purpose and you've cheapened it. That's just why I bring it up. So.
I will equate it to, and you may not like this comparison, I will equate it to Star Wars.
Yep, Luke and Leia, for sure.
New Hope. Yep, exactly. That it was like, they make out, and then in the second movie, like, oh, no, they're brother and sister. You're kind of like, wait, what? Yeah. And I think...
what about that thing that they did on the ship with the... Yeah.
And in Halloween, it's like, there was never a hint that was a thing. And then all of a sudden in Halloween 2, guess what? They're related. And Dr. Loomis, his doctor, somehow didn't actually know that. Like, right. So it's like, it's really weird that they just throw it in there.
Best doctor ever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Michael's in the room and he raises the knife, sets it down, just rips open his coveralls. Yes.
Oh, God.
South Haddonfield. Sorry. All right, focus back on that.
All right, so, okay, and I'll agree with people that, like, Halloween Ends, first off, the opening to Halloween Ends is amazing.
Yeah.
I think. And it's hilarious because my son doesn't watch these movies with me, Wayne, as you know, but he is more interested now in what we're watching. Like, I'll even be like, oh, we're going to watch that show on Netflix. I'll hear from the other room, what show are you guys watching? He could care less. Like, he's not going to watch it with us, but he just wants to know. And so, like, yesterday, I was watching this movie, and Jeremy, the kid in the beginning, was being a real asshole. And Donovan's like, man, I really hate that kid. I hope he dies. What happened? So, like, the whole movie, Donovan was like, yeah, remember Jeremy? Yeah, he sucked. I'm like, he's like, this kid should be a hero. And I'm like, nice, Donovan. So that's the shock. Again, spoilers. The shock to this movie is that it does not open with a cold open of Michael Myers. It opens with a character we've never met before who accidentally, and we see this, accidentally kills a kid.
But see, here's where, if this wasn't a Halloween movie, how awesome this would be. The kid ends up being a killer as well, or in lieu of it. Yeah, it's just an accordion effect. Like,
well, and I think
unintentionally created a new story or franchise. Really, they could have.
They could have. I think the intention here.
You don't know the kid is dead, so
that's true. In this franchise, no one's ever dead.
I'm pretty sure somebody's dead.
That's true. So we get that cold open and we meet this new character, Corey. So he's the new character. So if you already knew, I knew there was a new character. So I was like, okay, he's not going away. So then we go, that was a year after the events in the first movie. We go 3 years later in 2022. So we're in modern time. And Laurie and her Laurie's writing a book. Her granddaughter is living with her. She's a nurse now, helping people. Makes sense. Trauma, that kind of stuff. I do think the one thing I want to note too is I saw this on Twitter. This is why I brought up the trauma thing. They're like, this is about trauma here, trauma here. Halloween Ends is about what trauma can cause. It kind of the way they look at it is like Michael Myers and Laurie Strode's story has infected this town. They show us people dead hanging. One of those people, Wayne, apparently is Oscar's mom from the first movie. She hung herself while wearing his cape. I did not catch that, but that's what people pointed out online. Is she's actually wearing? There's a picture you could look at. She's wearing Oscar's cape, who is the granddaughter's friend in the first movie. So that, and she was very distraught in Halloween Kills that her son had died, obviously for obvious reasons. So callback after callback in this movie, we get a character who we presume to be dead in Halloween Kills is still alive. She's in a wheelchair. Her sister's yelling at Laurie Strode about how this is all her fault, and Michael Myers was your fault, type of thing. So again, we get that cold open, and then we cut, and we're just in this movie. And I will admit, with people, if you felt weird about how this movie started after that cold open, I agree with you. I was like, at first it didn't feel like a Halloween movie. It kind of took its time to get there. However, so what they do is they position this new character, Corey, as this kind of psychopath who's just kind of slowly fading away. There's this great scene with the father of the kid that he killed where he's like, that boy that mowed our lawns, that happy-go-lucky kid, he didn't kill my son. I know he didn't. He goes, but I pulled up to him the other day and I looked into his eyes, not the same person. So yeah. you could see how tragedy and trauma change people. And I think,
and that's to my point where, God, this would have been a great franchise
if it was something else.
And it's not saying that I hated this. It's just they inadvertently created something that really could have taken off.
It worked as its own. So you almost wish they would have kept this for their own franchise. Yeah, I can. You know what? I get that. I liked how they weaved it together, though. And I did there's a scene where him and Michael go to a house together. I really liked that aspect of it. I was like,
and again, that right there, the whole connection with him. It's see, you're humanizing him, and that's what I didn't like.
Okay, I see your point. But I think there. So
if somebody would have attacked him in any of the first films, no. Pieces. But I understand he's an old man now.
Well, and I think that's the idea. Remember, at the end of Kills, not only is he 60-something years old, but he got shot 17 times, beaten, set on fire at the end of the first movie. So I think you're supposed to get the idea that he's a worn down monster at this point. And that's what, there's a great line at the end where she's like, I used to think you're a monster, but you're just a man. And I think that's what they're kind of hinting to us, he really is just a man. And so the fact that Corey can, steal the mask from him, which he does, is more believable when you understand the fact that he is really injured. I also loved how he sat right up after he realized his mask was gone. I think there's, I'm glad they didn't explore the supernatural stuff because they tried to do that in The Curse of Michael Myers and it was fucking awful. But they kind of leave it there even though he is a man, there is maybe something that's maybe the mask is protecting him. Something's protecting him from not being killed so easily, if you will. I liked where this movie went, Wayne, after all, just watching it. The Halloween franchise is a weird franchise to begin with. There is definitely a lot of things you just kind of have to take for granted and be like, oh, okay, I guess I believe this. But yeah, I don't know, man. And then the last, 20 minutes with the fight with Laurie and Michael at the end. I mean, I think that's what everybody was waiting for. So the fact that it took so long to get to that too, I think is what pissed a lot of people off. It definitely, for a while, it doesn't feel like a Michael Myers movie, which I think is another reason why people were like, what the fuck? Now, to your point, this is a great, they developed a great story kind of outside of the Michael Myers thing. People were actually positioning hey, why don't they do more movies like this where it's like a Halloween 3 scenario where you just come up with another movie on Halloween night that's not Michael Myers related, but it could be still in the same universe. Oh, hey, remember that crazy Michael Myers, and then they have their own killer that they're dealing with on this side of town or whatever.
You guys are afraid of the boogeyman? I've got something even worse. Listen to this. Boom! Right into it.
So I think what I hear from you, Wayne, is there were elements there that you liked about this movie. You just didn't like the not Michael Myers feeling of it, because there was a lot of space in between the moments where it felt like a Halloween film and where it didn't.
Right. Well, he's not the shape anymore,
Yeah.
and they humanized him in a little bit, and I just don't feel like it just didn't really feel like a Halloween Michael Myers movie.
Okay.
So, and
Okay.
again, it's not to say this is bad. It is actually a really entertaining film.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that it's in the Halloween universe just kind of doesn't do either side justice in my
Okay, and I and
opinion.
I and I really liked it. I think that I like that David Gordon Green got to tell his story. Him and Danny McBride, who wrote these films, I think with Jeff Teams, I think is the other guy, or Scott Teams. Um, I like the fact that they got to tell their story, whether people like it or not. They, unlike the Disney and Star Wars, where Disney was worried and they changed directors of the third movie and gotten panicked and all that stuff. Jason Blum of Blumhouse was like, you know what, David? Like, if people don't like Halloween Kills, whatever, man, just fucking make the next one, end your franchise, and then Michael Myers will go wherever he goes in 10 years or 5 years or whenever they decide to do another one. So I like that part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, you want to go threequel to threequel versus the new Star Wars? Please, I'll take this one 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100. Because you know what? Everything was linear. Everything
It
fed
did.
off of the
Yeah.
previous.
Yeah, even though they introduce this new character, it eventually comes full circle. It just takes its sweet time to kind of come full circle. And we do get someone else wearing the mask at a certain point, which is this Corey character, which I thought was actually also really cool. That he went out committing the murders like that.
Are we sure Corey's dead?
Michael breaks his neck, but
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
yeah,
Okay.
because he's still alive when Michael goes up to him and he's bleeding out because Corey stabs himself. Again, spoilers. He's bleeding out. He wakes up kind of like Hawkins at the beginning of Halloween Kills, but then Michael's there and he fucking breaks his neck. So I think that was solidifying that he is gone. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are moving on to the Exorcist franchise next. So I think that's kind of their
Hard no thank you. You're doing those solo.
Those will all be, I think, Peacock originals. I'm excited for those. They've got Ellen Burstyn back to replay her role from the first Exorcist film. No word on Linda Blair yet. I have a feeling she'll be back, but probably not in the first movie.
Or they'll do like an end reveal or something.
Or it'll be like
or whoever else wants to jump in on that's fine. I am not doing those. So Howard alert right here. No sir.
All right, we'll have a substitute for those reviews. Yeah, so for me, this was a solid 8 out of 10. Like I said, I had a good time with it. If someone comes up to me and says they hated it, I don't hold it against them, and I hope they don't hold it against me that I really liked it, because it's a very polarizing film. So is Kills. I get that. I understand it. I liked him. I liked the way he went with it. I like the little nuances underneath that they came up with, that him and McBride came up with. Again, it's the whole idea that they got to go to this franchise and be like, well, this is what I would like to see. And maybe it's not what everybody wanted to see, but it's what they wanted to see. And they did it. And I think they completed it successfully. It's going to end up being a money-making franchise, despite the last two being straight to streaming and theaters on the same day. So to me, it's a success. I think over time, Wayne, I think these movies may get a little bit more love, Kills and Ends. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Because that's come around. There's a lot of movies, including Halloween 3, which is now like a cult classic, and everyone hated that when it came out. So
yeah.
Who knows? Wayne, what's your final rating?
I'm gonna go 7.5.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't hate it. They've inadvertently created something else, and I just
Are you almost upset that you won't get to see that play out? Is that kind of where that could have been its own franchise?
Yeah, man. I think because Rohan Campbell, I believe.
Yeah, the actor. Yeah,
great job going from traumatized.
He did a really good job. For someone I never heard of, I was like, wow, this kid did really good.
Yeah.
All right. So
break the nerd's glasses, though, bro. See what happens.
All those
body shots.
All those kids deserve what happened to them.
Well, I think they could. Yeah, a little bit worse.
All right, Wayne. Anything that you've watched recently? I've got a bunch to talk about here. Obviously,
Oh goodness, I did my first viewing of 1978 Halloween this week.
of course.
Amazing. Um, what else am I watching? Oh, Dawson and I are watching Cobra Kai straight
Nice.
through, so that's been fun. Um, yeah, that's the only real thing I can think of that's worth noting. Oh, I started Dahmer.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
creepy and off-putting, so no surprise there.
All right, so I've been watching other movies and stuff, but I'm going to really just talk about the Halloween, the 31 Days of Halloween list. I think I mentioned Dark Glasses last time that we had a podcast together. I also watched Sissy on Shudder, which is really good. I actually like that one a lot. I revisited From Hell with Johnny Depp and the latest. We'll talk about him a little bit. Robbie Coltrane. Halloween 3 season of The Witch I watch, which has become an annual one in our household. My wife, it's like the only Halloween movie that she really cares for, and it's not nothing to do with Michael Myers. The Fly I revisited. I really like that movie. Mr. Harrigan's Phone I watched for the first time on Netflix. It was okay. I didn't care for it that much. The Devil's Candy has become one that I watch every year now. Beast with Idris Elba is on Peacock. I like that one. It's a good like kind of monster or a creature feature, if you will. Um, then, of course, to get prepared for Halloween Ends, I watched Halloween 78, Halloween 2018, and Halloween Kills. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I revisited. As I posted, I like that movie. I don't love it. I know some people say it's better than the original. They're ridiculous. It is not. It's still a good movie. It's just not as good as the original. Return of the Living Dead 3 is one I've been wanting to revisit for a while. This, Wayne, is one of those movies from the 90s that I probably saw more times than anybody's even thought about this movie because it was always on TV in the early 90s. And I had one of those black boxes, which means I got the pay-per-view stuff for free. I've
Oh
mentioned
yeah.
that before. So yeah, during the day on the Spice channel, which was the softcore porn channel that came through the black box. They played these type of movies: Return of the Living Dead 3, Army of Darkness, Class of 1999 Part 2, stuff like that. The Invisible Man Returns. I like the Invisible Man films, pretty much any of them. Whether it be Hollow Man or the Chevy Chase one, or the original, or the new one from Lee Wanell. So that was pretty good. Vincent Price is the Invisible Man in that one. And then Old People on Netflix. Really recommend. Wayne, especially you too. It's a German film where it reminded me something of like a Train to Busan, but in a much smaller scale. These old people are possessed by demons, and they then become like these murderous zombies. So I thought that was a very interesting take, and it's a very fun film. So definitely Old People on Netflix, guys. If you haven't watched that, check it out. All right. So news and notes. I'll try to get through as quick as I can here. We got a couple weeks worth. So Thaisa Farmiga officially returning for more Nun horror in the Nun 2. Trash Human Being, Rob Schneider writing and directing The Animal 2 for Tubi. Uh, Frasier relaunch happening at Paramount Plus. Keanu Reeves may direct Berserker, comic adaptation that he helped create, which is like loosely based on him too. I think he's like modeled, the character's modeled after him. Joker writer Scott Silver, Captain America 4 writer Malcolm Spellman, and Yesterday Was Everything writer Matt Mixon have been brought on to write the new Spawn film starring Jamie Foxx over at Blumhouse. Jeremy Renner may also join the cast depending on screenplay and availability. The Wind director Emma Tammy will direct Five Nights at Freddy's film adaptation at Blumhouse, and Jim Henson Studios will create the characters. Directors Speck and Gordon working on musical version video game adaptation of Oregon Trail. Ika Darville and Kevin Durant join Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. John Waters to write and direct a film adaptation of his own novel, Liarmouth, A Feel Bad Romance. It will be his first movie in almost 20 years. Rumor that Henry Cavill has reportedly signed a new deal to appear as Superman once again, with the intention of them making finally a Man of Steel 2. Keanu Reeves and director Todd
Jumping
Field.
in on that, supposedly there's a lot of talk about him and Black Adam going at it. That would be cool.
Yep, Rock keeps hinting that him and Superman are going to have a fight at some point. So that would be an interesting, if they did Man of Steel and made Black Adam the villain, I think that would be kind of cool. So we'll see. Keanu Reeves and director Todd Field both leave Devil in the White City series at Hulu. I'm assuming it's scheduling problems. I doubt either one is like angry or anything. Horror anthology series VHS getting another installment in 2023 called VHS 85. Segments will be directed by David Bruckner, Hellraiser 2022, Scott Derrickson, The Black Phone, Gigi Sal Guerrero, Bingo Hell, Natasha Kermani, Lucky from 2020, and Mike P. Nelson, Wrong Turn 2021, which is actually a good movie. You should check it out. That VHS movie will debut on Shudder just like the last two. The Mean One, a Grinch slasher Christmas parody movie starring David Howard Thornton from the Terrifier series. He plays Art the Clown. Will be out around the holidays. It's actually going to be, the studio just announced they're going to release it for free online when it comes out. Justin Long joins Goosebumps live action series at Disney Plus. Nicholas Hoult in talks to join Robert Eggers' Nosferatu film, which stars Bill Skarsgård and Lily Rose Depp. A Haunting in Venice, Kenneth Branagh's next Hercule Poirot film, has landed another all-star cast: Kyle Allen, Camille Cotton, Jamie Dornan, Tina Fey, Jude Hill, Ali Khan, Emma Laird, Kelly Riley, Ricardo Scamarico, and Michelle Yeoh have all joined that cast. Ryan Reynolds working on a documentary about John Candy, which I would love to see. John Stamos and Caitlin Tarver have been cast in Jessica Simpson's memoir adaptation called adaptation series Open Book. Dario Argento following Dark Glasses, which I just talked about recently, with a remake of a 1940s Mexican thriller starring Oscar nominee Isabel Huppert. Marvel shifts several movies because of Blade delay. Deadpool 3, Fantastic Four, and Avengers Secret Wars have all been pushed back a few months from their original release dates. Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller will star in Scott Derrickson's The Gorge for Apple Films and Skydance. Peacock developing series based on 90s Mark Wahlberg film Fear. Sydney Sweeney to star in Barbarella reboot for Sony. Pete Davidson and Michelle Yeoh have joined the voice cast of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. That is the next live action film, and there'll be two of the robots. Joel Manganiello will direct Dungeons and Dragons documentary. Andy Serkis is turning The Wicker Man into a TV series. Joy Luck Club 2 in the works with original cast. Naked Gun reboot moving forward, Wayne, with Liam Neeson being considered for the lead role. It sounds like he's going to get it. Great choice, I think, because what made the first one work is that Leslie Nielsen was at first a serious actor who then went in to be a comedic actor. So it'll be fun to see if this has the same effect on Liam Neeson. Seth MacFarlane is producing, and Lonely Island's Akiva Schaffer is going to direct the film. George Nolfi to direct Elevated, starring Anthony Mackie. Horror icon Dee Wallace and actor David Menuer joined Fatal Attraction TV show. Harrison Ford replaces the late William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross in the Thunderbolts movie. Gangs of New York TV series in the works with Scorsese in line to direct. I figure you'd be excited about that one, Wayne. Minka Kelly will lead thriller Blackwater Lane and is joined in the cast by Taken actor Maggie Grace and Young Guns and the Family Stone actor Dermot Mulroney. Indira Varma from Game of Thrones has joined Dune Sisterhood TV series at HBO Max. WWE Hall of Famer Edge joins Percy Jackson Disney Plus series as the god Ares. Marvel's Nova project to be Disney Plus special presentation like Werewolf by Night. That's something that just came out, and I think they like that. So just like a 52-minute short film almost. All right, so releases coming up. Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel starts streaming on Prime Video January 27th. Lady Chatterley's Lover hits theaters November 23rd and Netflix December 2nd. Emancipation, starring Will Smith and directed by Antoine Fuqua, will hit theaters December 2nd and Apple Plus December 9th. Pitch Perfect, Bumper in Berlin, starring Adam Devine as his original character from the Pitch Perfect films, hits Peacock November 23rd. Wednesday premieres on Netflix November 23rd as the Addams Family TV show, starring Jenna Ortega. Christina Ricci has a new role in it as well, and Fred Armisen plays Uncle Fester, which they just released a new trailer and it looks awesome. Blockbuster is a new series at Netflix, debuts November 3rd. All right, deaths over the last couple weeks. Sacheen Littlefeather, Native American activist who accepted Brando's Oscar on his behalf, is dead at 75. Loretta Lynn, country singer, dead at 90. Judy Tenuta, accordion playing comedian, dead at 72. Angela Lansbury, dead at 96. Mike Schenk from American Movie, dead at 56. Austin Stoker, Assault on Precinct 13, dead at 92. Young director Jeff Barnaby, Indigenous film director of Blood Quantum and Rhymes for Young Ghouls, dead at 46 from cancer. Ted White, who played Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, dead at 96. And Wayne, as we all know, Robbie Coltrane, Hagrid from Harry Potter and legendary character actor, passed away this week at 72. Why don't you talk about him a little bit?
It's not Hogwarts without you, Hagrid. Just absolutely devastating. I know he's been in poor health for many years now, and it's just still so incredibly sad to lose. Excuse me, sorry, a little choked up there. Uh, the gentleman.
Yeah.
I think the first time I remember seeing him was in Goldeneye as the Russian double agent there,
Yep.
or no, arms dealer. I forget what role he played, but I remember Robbie being with just his distinct voice, with just the delivery and whatnot, and just very incredibly sad. They did a little documentary on the wrapping of Harry Potter, and they did a little segment with his last day as Hagrid on the show, and he talked about how it's a story that will live on, even though J.K. Rowling wants to systematically destroy it for some unknown reason, being the way she is. We won't talk about that. He talks about my children's children will watch this 50 years from now, and sadly I won't be here, but Hagrid will. And they've that's been all over social media, and I reshared that, and it's kind of just like makes you stop and think. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's
true.
great, these characters they do, and when they get into franchises like that, they're loved throughout the world, live on forever, live on beyond them, and that's always, I think, something to cherish when you lose somebody as big as Hagrid. Just a big actor. I'm not trying to say in size, but his voice, his booming voice, and
Well,
he's
Hagrid was a half giant,
he
so
was, yes. And Robbie Coltrane was a larger gentleman. I think everybody knows that. But he just that booming Scottish voice that he had, that it was very recognizable.
it's hard to lose Hagrid and Miss Potts so close together.
Yeah.
Obviously, Angela
Yep.
Lansbury, who
Yeah, for sure. Lansbury. Yeah, that was. She was at least 96, so like she lived
when
a long life.
they announced the live action Beauty and the Beast, they had an actress in the bell dress and somebody done up like the Beast come out to dance, and they started playing the Tales as Old as Time on the piano, and then she actually came out as a surprise and sang it for everybody, and the place just went nuts. And it's one of the lasting effects. Just one of the effects. One of the lasting memories I will have as well. It's like, oh, there she is.
Yep.
Oh. So.
All right. Well, rest in peace to everybody on that list, including Robbie Coltrane and Angela Lansbury. Everybody there will be missed. It's it's sad when you lose someone, like I said, like Coltrane or Lansbury, that were part of your childhood or young adulthood, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's we move on, I guess. But they will definitely, like you said, Hagrid will definitely be remembered for the rest of time, essentially. So that's
Even if it's
pretty cool.
Tales as Old as Time?
Yes. Oh, I like it. All right, everybody. This has been another.
Brandon's eye rolling me so hard right now. It's funny.
Perfect.
It's not my fault.
All right, everybody. It's been great to get back here and talk movies again, and glad to just talk about Halloween, one of my favorite franchises. So thank you for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. Wayne, any final thoughts?
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're going to keep trying to deliver the best content we can.
Yes, that is true. That is a true statement. All right, everybody. This has been another episode of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.
Reagan, the actor?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.